Okay, so taking a big breath because that's sort of what we're putting some focus on today, and I want to welcome everybody. It's there's a lot. I think there's a lot sort of happening right now, and a lot of people are experiencing that. And let me do a formal introduction. I'm Anna Poirier, and this is Breath, Body, Soul. And this is really about using, how I see it, using tools that we have readily accessible to help bring us forward through more challenging times, which a lot of people are experiencing right now in whatever form that is and whatever degree that is. I just feel that it's something to be acknowledged and also not feared. I think this is a really important message that I want to bring forth today. So that said, I kind of want to start us off with, and by the way, this will be, this won't be like a really long thing, like maybe 20 or 30 minutes is my intention to go, and so that so you can allow for that time for yourself. But what I really love to do is start with, what are you feeling right now? And I invite you, you might want to close your eyes to do that. I invite you to give it a word. What are you feeling right now? And just give it one word. I do this a lot when I teach insight meditation. And then, where are you feeling that in your body? Is it in a particular place? And if it is, if you're noticing, if you're just kind of experiencing something, even it could be sort of a feeling of energy or, whatever, we are these energy beings. And I believe, this is my belief, that we're stepping a little bit more and more into that, sort of in an evolutionary perspective, or maybe embracing it more. So go ahead and put your hand wherever you feel that, wherever you feel what you're experiencing. And if you're not, then you can put your hand anywhere or nowhere. And then just kind of breathe and feel. Again, if you're just feeling a pervasive experience in your body, let yourself breathe and feel that. If it's more in one place or another, breathe and feel that. And begin to notice, as you're just experiencing your feeling body, and we'll be going into more of like a kind of like a meditation. Right now, this is just, where am I? Is there anything shifting? Is your experience of yourself, of your sensation, of what you're feeling emotionally, physically, mentally, psychologically, is it shifting at all? And how is it shifting? So this is just a way to connect with your presence, right? To just become present. We've done this, it's taken about 3 minutes. And so I'm bringing this forward because I had a client yesterday, actually, who she has a lot on her plate. And that can be overwhelming, right? We can all get into a state of overwhelm. And then there's everything that we feel is happening out there in the world, and then maybe in our own world, and to take 2 or 3 minutes to just come into presence with yourself, whatever it is first of all not a big investment. And I want to acknowledge, and I completely understand that it's not always easy. It's not the default, right? It's not what you might feel, that I just don't want to do this. So we're present, we're here, and I thought before I bring us into our little exercise today, just wanted to talk about my brief synopsis of kind of what I feel is present right now from an astrological standpoint, since I bring that in. And I think too, being able to layer Ayurveda on that, and just some of the other, parts and pieces, right? So that we can look at that broader perspective. We now know we're here, we're breathing, our heart is beating, we're feeling different things in our beingness. And astrologically, there's been, it's interesting because, the way that I like to use astrology is, it's not like a predictive thing where I like to go, oh, well, because of this planet and that planet and whatever, like this, that, and the other thing is going to happen. It's more of like an energetic flavor, and then getting an understanding of how do we maybe relax, knowing that that will change. I think that's one of the really cool things, is that when you look at it, look at the planets, right? And it's like you can be more objective because they're planets, they're out there and they're stars, and from an astrological standpoint, they're influencing us. And but we can be objective and go, oh, well, all the planets are moving in some capacity. Some of them are slower than others. So there's this dynamic quality to what happens. And sometimes there's a little more friction, and sometimes there's a little less friction. And it's kind of like using it in a spiritual way of like, this too shall pass. And also when we see that there's like historically there's repetitive patterns, and times when there was that friction, it's like, oh, that happened before and they made it through, right? We survived. Now we've been in a challenging time globally, and I would say that is unique. That is unique to our time. I'm not a historian, not at all, but I would venture to say that most likely there hasn't really been a time where kind of like globally there is this aspect, just because of how we can connect nowadays, because we can go anywhere in the world. So if there is a pandemic, as an example, it's going to spread so quickly because people are flying here and there and going all over the place, as opposed to before the days of being able to fly somewhere in an instant. So it's unique in that way. And yet there's a connectivity that brings us together, even at this time when now there's not as much of that, right? And there's limitations on what we can do. But inside of those limitations, what is it asking us for? So I'm going to use a current thing right now that's happening for February 4th, 2021. We are in Mercury retrograde. I'm going to use this example. I'm not going to go into like really all the complexities of everything that's happening, but we're in Mercury retrograde. and we're in the sign of Aquarius. So that, Mercury retrograde, and a lot of people are familiar with that. Not everybody, but a lot of people are, and they think like, oh, Mercury's in retrograde, I can't do anything, I can't sign anything, I can't make any decisions, I can't I can't do this, and technology is going to fail, and yeah, and that might happen as far as technology sort of glitches. I would actually be curious to see if anyone's ever actually done a study of that. If it happens more often during Mercury retrograde. But we are in the sign of Aquarius, which rules the internet, and um and so there can be that. And that's just a little aside. That's my excuse in case something happens with this with this Facebook Live. Kidding. But what it really is it's a time to evaluate. It's a time to review, because retrograde is just that it looks like it's retreating instead of moving in like the forward direction or whatever. It's not actually doing that, but it appears that way. And so it's like, what if we only moved forward? What if we only kept going, and we never kind of looked back, evaluated, how can I learn from this experience? How can I grow and be a better person? If we only had our vision like this and we only kept taking steps forward. So it's a review, it's a pause. It's a time to reflect. It's like, it's the exhale. So it's a really beautiful, I think, potent and almost creative time. And because there's like some other sort of like frictiony things happening with the planets that could deal, and Mercury deals with communication too. So it's like, think before you speak, right? Like that would be very, I almost feel like that's what Mercury in retrograde asks us to do even more, is take a pause. Okay, maybe don't just be, reactive and say something and communicate something in some way, whether it's verbally or written or, online or what have you. And to really see, like, what have I learned? Maybe, a time to digest, to assimilate, and perhaps even eliminate. And I'll finish off today with some questions to kind of bring forth that I use a lot personally. I'm not a big journaler, but I really like to use these. I keep it very basic and like, what do I like? Yeah, so it's really like, what can I learn? What can I discover? How can I do things differently next time? And Alexia, I just saw you feel like we tend to have a lot of issues with tech during Mercury retrograde. So I know, and that's like one of those, I don't want to say cliched, but maybe a little bit cliche things, but there's probably merit there, right? So that said, I want to kind of bring that into the mix, because if there is a sense like that you want to do something, you want to move forward on it, it's not like you don't or you shouldn't do it during a time of Mercury retrograde, because it happens 4 times a year. But how can you do it more mindfully? I mean, literally, just, often people will say, like, make sure you reread and reread and read. Nothing wrong with that. Do it more mindfully. Really step back. Look at the bigger picture. Go back and see, what's important moving forward. What do I need to let go of? All that good stuff. So something I really wanted to bring forth today is working with heart coherence. And that was part of the title of this, the heart, breath, soul. Heart coherence is a very simple thing. It sounds, maybe you've heard of it. There's also an institute, the HeartMath Institute, that works with this and teaches it. And I haven't studied with HeartMath or anything like that, but I'm familiar with heart coherence mostly from yoga and just the way that it brings that in. But essentially, it is that your heart has neurons that communicate with the brain. Something like 40,000 neurons that communicate with your brain. And that actually there is almost more influence than we could ever imagine here. And when your heart when your heart comes into coherence with your body and your mind, then really things can open up tremendously. And this is on every level. And I don't want to be like, so, oh my God, this is, an amazing thing. You don't need anything else. But it is very powerful. And there's science behind it. And your heart rhythm is modulated by your breathing. And your breathing is modulated by your heart rhythm, but more your heart rhythm is modulated by your breathing, because our breath we have control over. Our heart we don't have control over. Okay, that's. But if you're not paying attention to your breath, and of course I acknowledge that not everybody is paying attention to their breath 24/7, but if we can consciously do that, this is like a switch that can be a very powerful switch. So when you have regular breath rhythm, this is what helps to bring you into coherence. So let's do it. It's super simple. And I invite you to, as I'm walking you through the process, to kind of make it your own too. Okay. And we'll be playing with like about a 5 to 6 second inhalation and a 5 to 6 second exhalation. Okay. So go ahead and close your eyes if you're comfortable doing that. And place a hand on your heart. And so this automatically is going to help bring you into your heart just by putting your hand there. So that's our anchor, essentially. And as you place your hand on your heart and you feel your heart, notice maybe your energy move out of your head and come into your heart. And then just begin to pay attention to your breath as well. So now your hand's on your heart, you have some awareness there. You start to integrate the breath. And we'll start to go into, for yourself, I'm not going to teach this necessarily, that you're breathing into your abdomen. So it's abdominal breathing, ideally, diaphragmatic breathing, where you are taking about a 5, maybe a 6 second inhalation and a 5 to 6 second exhalation. And as you start to get that in gear for yourself, you can add a little bit of a pause at the top of the inhale. It's small. It shouldn't create any anxiety. It's really just taking that pause at the top of the inhale and then being able to exhale. And as you drop into this breath rhythm with your hand on your heart, you want to invite in a positive feeling. Some good ones are gratitude, appreciation, care, compassion. And it might be helpful to focus that on a particular person or situation or animal or even on nature, like a setting that you love. So that can be useful in just really calling that emotion forward, calling forth that positive feeling. And as you're here with that 5-6 second inhale and exhale, breathing into your belly, into your diaphragm, letting there be that little bit of movement, feeling this positive emotion, feeling this positive feeling, allowing it to really grow inside of you, to expand with your breath. And it's said that it literally only takes 60 seconds to reach coherence. So we're well there. And as you feel this, as you experience it, know that it's there. Know that you can go back at any time. And I actually would venture to say that it's best to not do this for a long time. Just to do it for, maybe a few minutes. You could even do it for 60 seconds and see if that, shifts you enough so that you feel it and now it's shifted you into that coherent place and there's not enough time to shift you out, right? And as you're ready, you can just kind of bring yourself out and just kind of feel your body, feel yourself. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you just notice, like I always like to notice what I notice after something like that, just kind of where am I? What am I feeling? What am I experiencing? That kind of a thing. And feel free to type something into the chat in either on Facebook if you like, or on Zoom. I'm not going to unmute us quite yet. So if there's just something that you want to share about that, that would be great. Always love hearing from people. And it's like a little bit of me juggling the windows. But I'm trying to pay attention. Let's see, just checking. Great. Good deal. All right. The last thing I wanted to offer out, so honestly, what we just did is, I think, a very powerful thing. Now, if you were to couple it with this little, I like to do this in the morning or the evening, because it's like the morning you can set the tone for your day and you're sort of fresh. And then the evening, it really closes out the day, and sleep is so important. So it's like opening up to your sleep. And this is a variation of a couple of different teachers that I am familiar with, that I'm sharing this from. But 3 questions basically. And it's basically filling in the blanks. So you can say to yourself, I am grateful for receiving blank. I am letting go of or releasing blank. And just let it come. This is not like thinking about it really hard, really kind of let it come. And then, what does my soul want to tell me today? I love this question. I mean, for some people that might feel like, what does my soul want to tell me? I have no idea. I don't know my, whatever. But it's not about a right answer, and it's not about doing it correctly. Let me put it that way. Is it's just kind of start asking the question. And I like to do this in a journal, like, what does my soul want to tell me? And then just whatever comes up, write it. And think of it as like you're choosing to allow your soul to speak to you from the highest light. Okay. So if you're like, what does my soul want to tell me? And it says that you're a bad person, that's not your soul. So I'm just going to be clear about that. Even though I said there's not a right way to do it, I don't believe from my belief system, I don't believe that's your soul. Other people may think differently. That's totally fine. So yes, what does my soul want to tell me? And it's like a really interesting little inquiry. So hopefully that, that feels useful and just like a little exercise to do. I almost like to do this more at night if I was going to give it a designation, only because then I'm going into a dream state and maybe something comes up in my dreams, and I'm also kind of like letting go of something, and I'm having gratitude for something, like closing out the day. But that's not to say that's the right way. That's just something that I may prefer to do. So yeah, so that said, I am going to close out the recording, but keep us going for a second. So I want to thank everybody who's watching the recording.